One of those prophetic tools that we have talked to people about through the years is the cause and effect relationship. Cause and effect. If there is a cause, there will be an effect. That's true in science. That's true in the real world, between people, between nations. If there is a cause, there will be an effect. That's what happened in the garden, way back yonder. There was a cause, and the cause was they did something that they were told and warned not to do. And you and I, way down here, are paying the price still. So cause can be minor or small or appear to be a small thing, but the consequences can be beyond imagination. Would war be a cause? Yes, it would. Real war or the threat of war, cause and effect. We're going to talk about money briefly as we go across here. We're going to talk about money. Why? Because according to the book of Revelation, money is what the devil is going to use, what the evil power is going to use to control people. And if you don't take the mark or the number, if you don't bow down, if you don't obey the will of the powers that be, then you cannot do what? You can't buy or sell. So we're talking about money. We're talking about controlling people by controlling money. There's a picture, a half picture of $100 US $100 bill. Can you see that? Are you looking at it, $100 bill? Why didn't they just show us a picture of the whole bill? Come on. Because it's against the law to take a picture of U.S. currency in any form. So they have to show half of the bill or part of the bill. They can't show you the whole bill. There's a new currency coming in the United States. The U.S. dollar is going to be changed. Will it still be called a dollar? I think so. But it'll be changed. So we want to look at the two pictures. In this one, the U.S. dollar is beaten up. There's a bandage on Ben Franklin's face and a bandage on his head. So the U.S. dollar is in for a bruising. This one has a picture, none too flattering, of Christine Lagarde. She is the international head or chairperson or director of the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. And she can call up President Trump or the U.S. Treasury or whatever. She can call and say, no, you cannot do that. She can call up China and say, no, you can't do that. Because she has a very powerful position with the United Nations. United Nations. Does that sound like a world order? Yes. So changes are coming, according to these two documents, in the next whatever. The global reset will come like a thief in the night. Changes are coming. And they're going to affect every one of us, you, me, every business between here and the freeway, every business from the freeway to New York City. Everything is about to change in ways that the American people, and the world for that matter, but the American people have no real concept of what's about to happen. So I'm going to put, this is my doing, my reckoning, my interpreting of where we're going to go with cause and effect. It's going to start with a change in the money of the world. the US dollar saved the world, the modern world. Literally saved the modern world after World War II. We got all the way from 1945 to 1971, and we maintained gold-backed U.S. currency, gold-backed. 1971, President Nixon said we can't do it anymore because countries like you and you and you and you get $100 and you come and you say, I want $100 worth of gold. And so we're depleting our gold reserves. So we stopped it in 1971. Well, we depleted our gold reserves by running up debt, running up debt, running up debt. It's going to start here. That's us, U.S. It's going to start here. And we have to make a change in the dollar. It's no longer backed up by gold and silver. And so we backed it up for 30, 40, 50 years, 30, 40 years. We backed it up with oil. And we struck a deal with the Saudi Arabians that you will produce this much oil and nobody can buy it from you. No one can get oil anywhere on the planet unless it's backed by US dollars. So we keep the US dollar at the top. Keep the value up there. All of that is changing. It's been changing now for the last 2 or 3 years. You probably haven't noticed it. They did not want it to be a headline in the news. But China announced to Christine Lagarde and the International Monetary Fund and the Bank for International Settlements and the World Bank and the World Trade Organization and on and on and on, China said, we are going to go back on the Chinese yuan, the Chinese currency. If you've heard the president and his folk in the White House, if you've heard him say, China is tampering with the currency. They're playing games with the currency. What is the game they're playing? Come on. We've been selling you, we've been shipping to you our goods manufactured out of real stuff, and you have been paying us with ink on paper. That's it. We can't do that anymore. We're not going to do that anymore. And so, in the last 24 months, thereabouts, the announcement was made by China to the International Monetary Fund and Christine Lagarde that we're going to go back. Now, who would object to that? You're going to back it up with gold? Who would object to that? Come on. If no one can do business except they have gold-backed currency, who's out of business? So we're saying behind closed doors, we're saying China is making war on us, and they are, but it's a monetary war. And so what we have done, please listen, what we have done is no longer buy oil from Saudi Arabia and all these other places. We have bought oil to keep the economy of the world going, especially the U.S. economy. So the United States has become the #1 producer of oil on planet Earth. We may not have tons of gold, China, like you do, but we have assets and we have oil, and we are the #1 oil producer on the planet. So we're backing our money with real stuff as well. You'll hear more about that in the news. I'm not going to elaborate. I want to tell you that this is the beginning. This is a cause, and we're on our way to an effect. You probably didn't follow the news in the last 24 hours, but China has announced that they are going to make war against the their words, make war against the U.S. with computers, hacking. So suddenly we're nervous. What are we nervous about? Well, we're nervous about the power lines, the power companies, because they're very vulnerable to hacking. The banks are wide open to hacking. And Iran has announced, because of the sanctions that you're putting against us, we're going to make war on you in return. We're going to do it with computers. So this is just guesswork on my part. I believe that we're going to see a change in the currency immediately. Could happen today, tonight, tomorrow, next week, but it's coming. That's the headline. 4 or 5 days. Immediately, this is, and it will be a cause and the effect at some point. Just guessing, just guessing. There will be an effect, and Iran is going to do something to tweak the tail of the tiger or the lion. And that's described in Daniel as I saw a rough goat, and he's coming from the west. He's not going to touch the ground as he comes. Did you hear the president announce in the last 3 weeks that we're going to introduce, the United States is going to form or create a new military unit? Did you hear this? And what did they call them? Space what? Space soldiers or whatever. It's a whole new military branch being formed in the U.S. So what do we need space soldiers for? Because people down here can shoot our satellites down, and our satellites are loaded and ready to do whatever down here. So it says that when the goat from the west is stirred and angered, he comes without touching the ground. So how quickly can we react to Iran or anybody else out there doing something we don't like? How quickly can we react? Instantaneous. We don't even have to send our soldiers over somewhere else on the planet. We can do all of this by command. And so President Trump said to North Korean Kim Il-sung, said, you better consider the offer. You better consider the offer. Because if you don't, if this doesn't work out, if we don't get you to get rid of your nuclear weapons, poof. So people think you got to fly a plane over there and drop a bomb. No, you don't have to do that anymore. You just push a button and tell the satellite up there, this is the target, this is the exact location of the target, zap. You probably don't recall, but a year ago in China there was a tremendous explosion, and it was underground. Can't prove it, but it was said in certain circles that these were U.S. space weapons, that the Chinese were trying to do something underground the same way the North Koreans are trying to perfect their weapons underground. We have satellite weapons that could reach right down through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of feet of rock and mountain and all the rest of it. So there will be a cause, and it will be a money cause, and there will be an effect, and it will be a war between the U.S. and Iran. Now, what does the prophecy say about this war when it happens? The power from the west comes and beats up the ram with two horns. And there's a lapse, a time that's going to pass. We don't know exactly, we can guess, but there's a time that comes. Is it 1 year? Don't know. That element could be. Is it 1 month? We don't know. But when the goat throws him to the ground, the rough goat throws Iran principally in Iraq when he throws him to the ground, it says there's nobody to help him. No one will step in. That's Russia, that's China, that's whomever. No one is going to help him. So why not? Because this comes so suddenly that even the Chinese and the Russians are not prepared for what the U.S. is going to do. Now, I want to know where does this ministry fit into all of this? In other words, if there is a change in the currency and we are furnished with a measure of wealth to do God's work, then that's a plus. War is not a plus. This has the potential of negatively affecting us. And according to Daniel's visions, the bear will be strengthened, and the leopard will be strengthened, and the lion will be weakened. So it says, when he was strong, the U.S. against, when he was strong, the notable horn, that's a power, the notable horn, broken. Okay, that's where I want to focus, right here. If you break the economy of the U.S., will it be the end of the U.S.? No, but we will be wounded. We will be affected terribly. So I've gone through Daniel, I've gone through Revelation, I've gone through current history, and this is what I believe is going to happen. This is me, myself, and me. Once this war with Iran takes place, this is a trigger event. It is going to set into motion. It will be a new cause and a new effect. At some point, the notable horn from the west is broken. Does that mean that the Chinese drop nuclear weapons on us? Does it mean the Russians drop nuclear weapons on us? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Something happens that breaks or wounds or hinders. It breaks the back of the lion, pulls his wings off. He's left toothless, wingless, all the rest of it. That, I believe, is going to happen. You heard of Yellowstone National Park? You understand that that's a volcanic event. That's a crater event, Yellowstone crater. And if we follow this rift line across the country, comes out and what's the volcano in Hawaii that's going off? Kilauea. The volcano in Hawaii, the west coast of the U.S., the volcano at Yellowstone, and we come all the way across the United States, Mississippi River, and what's the one in Missouri? What's the big fault? The New Madrid Fault, right here, New Madrid. And this is Charleston, South Carolina. All of these are connected. When the New Madrid in 1811 and 1812, when the New Madrid Fault was broken, the Mississippi River flowed backward for 3 to 4 days. Caused the Mississippi River to flow backward for 3 or 4 days. In 1811, 1812, as the New Madrid Fault was shaking, there were sand blows. Do you know what a sand blow is? There were sand blows in Charleston, South Carolina that were blowing 100 feet into the air. That shows there's a connection. All of these events are connected. The potential is there for disaster. So in the last few months, we've given you headlines that say the United States warned, West Coast be warned. The stage is set for a collapse of the West Coast. So if you had the wherewithal to print several million books or 100 million books, one of the places that you would want to deal with as quickly as possible would be the West Coast of the U.S., California, Oregon, Washington, Alaska. That would be very important. If you've got to get books out, you want to get them out as quickly as you can. So we're targeting the West Coast of the U.S. I believe that that's the stroke that breaks the wings off of the lion myself, right here. It's not nuclear weapons from China or Russia. It's a natural disaster. So the disciples said to Jesus, how can we know when this time is come? He said, natural disasters. You listening? Natural disasters. Now, Ellen White picks up on the words of Jesus. Very setting, same thing. She says, fire, flood, and earthquake with war and bloodshed. Oh my. Fire, flood, and earthquake. I'm always amazed that people don't watch the news. Are you watching the fires in California that are really out of season right now? They just erupt and you can't get out of the way fast enough. So there are natural disasters. When God sent word through Moses and Aaron to Pharaoh, let my people go, or what? Or what? Natural disaster will come upon you, and natural disaster will come upon you, and natural disaster will come upon you. Well, I'm thankful I don't live on the New Madrid Fault. I'm thankful I don't live on the San Andreas Fault. I'm thankful that I live right here in safe old Alabama. Do you really think there's any place on this rock where nothing can happen to you? No. But this is what I want to ask of you folk. The change is coming. The currency change is coming. And we want to be, we who have made an investment and we who have been blessed by the gifts of others when this happens, we want to print books as quickly as possible. So I'm going to put Simeon on the spot. Simeon happens to be from one of the islands down here in the Caribbean. That's where he was born. Not St. Lucia, was it?
St. Vincent.
St. Vincent. Not only is that where he is from and knows that part of the world, but he has connections with some important people who can help us get some books out very quickly. English and Spanish. Very quickly. So if I had the money and I had the books, and I could say to Simeon, Simeon, you and your connections, take responsibility for this, will you? We know how many books we're going to print because the atlas tells you how many people, just go online, how many people in this country, how many U.S. mail, not U.S., but how many mailboxes, how many households, addresses. So that would be a large part of the world. And what about South America? We're talking about the Caribbean. Now we got to get down to South America. What are we going to do there? Well, we have people like David Gates who have become part of our work. He calls and he says, I need books. And we send books. We load them up, and either George or Tony take them to Collegedale, and they're loaded in trucks, and they go down to be loaded again and shipped to Central and South America. So we have connections with people that we can say, take responsibility for this. We have friends in Australia and New Zealand. They've already said, as soon as you ship the books, we will see that they go. So I went in Tony's office here not long ago. I said, Tony, Great Britain, I want you to get on the plane when the time comes. I want you to fly to England, and I want you to make arrangements so that we can post the books to every residential address in Great Britain. That would include Ireland and Scotland. Do you understand what we're doing? We're large sections, large chunks of real estate, people, nations in quick order. We already have arrangements to do the U.S., and I'm not going to say more about Canada for fear of. The state of California, the economy of the state of California is the 5th largest gross domestic product, 5th largest in the world. The state of California has wealth greater than 96%, 97% of the countries of the world. If the New Madrid, not the New Madrid, but the San Andreas Fault and all those major faults along the west coast of California, if those shake and break, how will that affect the United States, the rest of the country? How will that affect Washington, D.C. and decisions that are made? How will that affect the country? So we can't say what we would do under the circumstances. We're going to have to let the Lord lead in all of that. But you need to be in a place where you're not easily grabbed. You listening? That doesn't mean much to you and me right now because we don't have that much money to worry about, but we're talking about millions of dollars for the books, and we don't want this to happen. Starts here with a change in the circulating currency. Gets ugly and moves to war between the West and the Mideast. At some point, fire, flood, and earthquake, natural disasters are going to be mixed with, and the notable horn is going to be broken. The wings are going to be plucked. It's going to happen. So what is the 4th step, and what does it mean to you and me and Gary, and what does it mean? The Lord has His ways. We all know that. We all believe that. But the time is coming. I'm going to quote Ellen White here. The time has come for God to bear His mighty arm and make a quick work. So how much time are we talking about here? This is about 3.5 years. And this is 3.5 years. Is that at the beginning of the final 3.5? Is it somewhere in the middle of the 3.5? Don't know. We don't know yet, but the beast becomes recognizable. And we can say that's exactly as it's pictured in the book. The beast system. So, Gary's a friend. He drives all the way from his home in Mississippi to come over here and spend a couple of hours with us. If any one of these 3 or 4 things should take place, we might not see Gary again. If this should happen along the west coast of the United States, what would happen to the bridges across the Mississippi River? And there are like 10 or 12 of them. The interstate highways and the bridges that cross the Mississippi, and everything from the Rocky Mountains west would be shaken, shaken, shaken. And there are links here, and we're talking about. So I'm going to quote Ellen White. If God has spoken through me, the time is coming when we will all stand alone. We're going to be separated by time, by space, by wealth, by trouble, by whatever it is. The time will come when we're going to stand alone, every one of us. So you and I have a race against all of this. We have a little bit of time to do whatever we can do, whatever God enables us to do, whatever God energizes with money, with people, with spirit, with whatever. We have a little bit of time. And when that early time, this part, I believe about 3.5 years, when this first part is done, where do you and I want to be? Don't say heaven, because it's not here yet. Where do we want to be? We want to be someplace that we can be self-supportive. You listening? We moved here in 1970. Judy and I and Stephanie moved here in 1970. She was 2 years old. And we decided we wanted to build a home, which we did right down the road here. We built a home. Borrowed money from the bank, one of those horrid bank loans. And we started building a home. And we got about halfway through the building, and we realized we didn't have water. And so we had a little spring way down the back and mix a little concrete here and there, but we didn't have water, so we've got to dig a well. We did it on the first house, but on this one as well. We had to dig a well. And who do you suppose was in charge of the digging? You're talking to city slicker. So we were told that there's a black fella in Clanton. He's really good. He's well known. People trust him. You need to find him. You need to hire him. Let him help you get this well dug. Have you ever dug a hole in the ground 30 feet deep? It's a new experience. So this old black fella, I can't remember his name. Anyhow, he said, this is what you got to do. You got to get a stick. You got to measure it. You got to get a stick 4 feet. You got to drive a nail right through the middle of the 4 feet. And you can put it on the ground, nail in the ground, and you can make a mark with that stick for the circle of the well. And as you dig and you go down a foot, you go down 2 feet, and you go down 3 feet, you just stick this nail in the wall until you got to clean things up again. And yours truly got down to the bottom of that well. And you look up and you see a little bit of daylight. 30 feet's a long way when you're underground. It's a long way. I tried not to think about it. As a matter of fact, I refused to think about it because I'd be screaming all the way down and all the way out. We had to dig for water. We had to do things that weren't readily available because this was country. We didn't have thousands of people around us. There were very few people around us. And so we had to make do with whatever we could find and hire done and do ourselves. We had to do it. Can you grow something to eat? I mean, you can, but can you really grow something to eat? And can you feed yourself and your family and somebody else as well? Can you do that? Well, we have ample instruction that we should learn how to do these things, be prepared to do these things, because the day is coming, it's going to be necessary. It's going to be necessary. So let me quote Ellen White again. We have nothing to fear for the future except and unless what? We forget how God has led us in the past. And I can say amen to that. Amen to that. Just a couple of quick stories, true experiences. The phone rang, and the brother on the other end of the line said, is this you, Brother Wheeling? Yes. Brother Wheeling, I want you to come see me. The wife and I have been listening to some of your tapes. We want you to come. Well, brother, I don't have the money to get to Oklahoma from here. And I don't have the time because of appointments that are already made. Brother Wheeling, you need to get here. That's all I want to say. You need to get here. And we'll discuss certain matters. So, Lord, how do we get to Oklahoma? The phone rings again from another party. He says, you know, I'm the chief pilot for Kimberly-Clark, don't you? I said, well, I didn't know you were the chief. Yeah, I'm in charge of all the pilots for Kimberly-Clark, and there's like 40, 50, 60 of them. He said, I'm calling you, Brother Charles, because I have a friend who has a plane, and it's sitting on the runway over here in Sylacauga, and he told me I could use it, and gas and everything. Do you need to go anywhere? I said, yes, I need to get to Oklahoma. All right, find a map, mark it on the map, let's work it out. So we flew to this place in Oklahoma. There was no runway. It was just flat cow country land. And we landed in Pastureville. It was kind of late in the afternoon when we got there. So we visited overnight. And by the way, these people sponsored a tremendous amount of book work. Just incredible. Unbelievable. How can people open their pocketbook and just hand you money? Well, they're not handing me money. They're handing God money. See? Anyhow, we found it necessary to overnight and not fly back halfway across the country after dark in a single engine plane. You know, he says when the sun goes down, John goes down. So anyhow, we got up the next morning ready to get an early leave and get back. And it had snowed overnight. And there was this much ice on the wings of the plane. And we're out in cow pasture. What do you do? Didn't bother John. He knew what to do. He said, just listen. I'm going to start the engine. I'm going to rev it up. You stay out of the way of the prop. But sweep. Get a broom, find anything you can, and just sweep across the wings, and I'll blow this stuff off. Just like that. We made a runway. We didn't make it. We were just in flat cow country. And we took off. And we got back. I didn't have the money to go. I didn't have the way to go if I had the money. I came back with money. But they wanted it clear and understood, this is for the books. Yes, that's what we're all about. This is for the books. Now those folk are several years deceased. You understand? But for that day, the Holy Spirit moved on their hearts, got all the way to the pocketbook, and they said, this is what we want to do. And I can't remember how many thousands of dollars it turned out to be, but a lot of money. A lot of money. A lot of books. So what do we know? If there is a need, who can supply it? Can he park a plane on the runway full of gas and say, this guy told me I could use the plane. And oh, by the way, I'm the number one pilot. My experience is God not only supplies the need, he supplies it in the best possible manner. The best way to do it. So let me tell you one more. You have to see this not once or twice, dozens of times. In our case, this ministry, hundreds of times. I had a phone call from the West Coast. Brother Wheeling, come. We're getting everything ready. We expect 1,000, maybe 1,500 people. We want to write it down. You've given your word you're going to be here for this date. Okay. Well, you got to print handbills for several thousand people. Mail out. You got to pay the postage, pay the printing, whatever. We didn't have that. But we had to do it because nobody is going to come unless they know where to come and when to come. And so we went there. We had to pay the hall rental. We had to pay the insurance. We had to pay. And so you take one offering in the weekend, one offering. And usually we come back almost to the dollar or $1 or $2 past. If it was a $5,000 bill, we got $5,005. You listening? You can't write the script. On this particular occasion, it was about a $6,000 bill, as I recall. She's the money person. So she said, "Did you bring the offering envelopes back?" "Yeah, they're in the luggage there somewhere." So Judy gets them out. She starts tallying, totaling everything up, because she's gotten the bills already for the insurance and the building and the da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And she says, "You didn't get enough." I said, "Well, God will take care of it." No. I have to write checks. We can't bounce checks. I said, "Look, we've done this enough times to know that God will supply. Somebody will send an offering in here from that meeting that didn't have it to give at the meeting. It'll come in. 5 days later, sure enough, here comes a check. Here comes a little note from a friend saying, "I'm sorry, I got there, didn't have my purse or my wallet or whatever it was, and I just wanted to." It was, what was missing plus $5. Now, you would think my wife would be a believer, wouldn't you? And yet, every time we get slack on the bank account, "What are you going to do about it?" Nothing. I need to get out of the way, stay out of the way, and let God take care of business. What is my business? What is our business? What is this business about? Getting the books out. Making the right connections in the right way, at the right price, and the right time to get the books out. So one more story. One more. We've been printing up east, Buffalo, New York, some in Tennessee and Virginia. Big printers. They print National Geographic magazine, all those kind of things. We were printing black ink on the body of the publication and a colored cover. We need a color publication. So the phone rings, Brother Gary. And a friend says, "Why aren't you guys using the same printer that 3ABN's using?" Don't know who they are. We found out. We brought Gary, our agent, brought Gary down. We print these books in full color, from cover to cover. Color. Nothing slack about this. Slick cover. We print these for a fraction of what we were printing the black copy for. Are you listening? So this is where I am at the personal level. Lord, I'm asking for healing. I need it desperately. If you see fit, you see fit. If you don't see fit, then I need to know that the work will continue and go on, get done. So we have people, a handful of people in this ministry who can literally keep the work going. If I fall, by the way, I'm not planning on falling, but what I'm trying to say is we are doing everything we can to be in a position, if God supplies the means, to get the work done. And that is going to happen. I just know it's going to happen.
Loving Father who art in heaven, to you be all the praise and the honor and the glory.
Yes.
We are so thankful, Lord, that the many years ago you said to Charles, "You are going the wrong way, man." All the plans he had for developing this and that and the other, you wanted him in the bookwork. And when he was wondering, how am I going to get this done? Lord, you know I don't like to ask people for money. The Lord says, you go to work, I will pay the bills. You have never failed. We thank you for this day. Your promises are sure and steadfast. We have conquered much territory, but there is still a lot to be done.
Yes.
And on the assurance of your word, we believe the time is here when it will be done. Help us to sow the seeds and leave the reaping to you.
Yes.
Help us to walk while it is day, because the night cometh when no man can walk. To your name be the praise and the honor and the glory
Forevermore.
forevermore.
Yes.
In Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.